Hello, everybody, and welcome into the PGR eSports Intimidator Superspeedway Series live tonight at Talladega Superspeedway. Thank you all so much for tuning in. You are watching Austin Green on PGR eSports. Well, I'll tell you what, I've been out for a couple weeks, but man, I am excited to be back in tonight's fashion. Nonetheless, we've got two heat races to get to, so without any further ado, let's get right down trackside, break down the race info, and get into tonight's starting grid. Now, again, I mentioned it is heat night, so the way things work, drivers qualified, and based off qualifying position, we're split up into two separate heats. And granted, based on how you finish in your heat determines who makes the race. And so what we're getting ready to witness will be heat race number 1. Each heat, by the way, going to be 15 laps in total for the distance. And you do not have a fast repair, and there could be a pit stop. More on that in just a moment. How about the pole sitter, though, for heat race number 1, the man who continues to get better and better in qualifying runs. Noticed it in the light series on Monday, and here he is again. Sean Corbett puts down a 54.207 to take that top spot in the 45 machine. Coke Series driver Malik Ray starts to his outside in second, and we'll keep the Coke Series, or excuse me, former Coke Series drivers going with Garrett Maines in third. David Flanagan for the Jack Shack, he will start in fourth. Good to see him make a return here tonight. Jeff Merck for NBG back in fifth with Nathan Harper in sixth. It'll be James Waring starting seventh with Corey Wright in eighth. Matthew Stallneck back in ninth, and one of the Team PGR drivers, Natch Brambilla, rounding out the top 10. Axel Smith will start back in the 11th spot in that 97 machine. Tucker McClendon to his outside in 12th. It'll be Danny Barnes in 13th. Christopher Melton 14th. John Ward back in 15th with Matthew Taylor 16th. Then you've got Freddie Bosnez in 17th. And on the outside of row number 9, it's going to be Landon Velicki in 18th. Back in the 19th position, it's Hunter Hastings in the 44 with Corey A. Taylor to his outside in 20th. Dylan Jones will start 21st here tonight. It'll be Joshua McCullough from McCullough Motorsports in 22nd, and he'll have a pair of teammates back behind him in row number 12. It's Christopher McCullough alongside Ken McCullough Jr., and those two are going to be rounding out your 24-car heat here for heat number 1. Again, we'll present you with the race info here tonight. As I mentioned, two heat races, 15 laps each, and through both of those heat races, you will have 40% fuel in the car, no fast repair. So keep that in mind. One green-white checker. That'll go for all three events here tonight, including the feature, which will be 50 laps in total. And then two tire sets if you need them. Talladega Superspeedway, 2.65 miles in length. Weather outside here in the sim, 79 degrees, 43% humidity, partly cloudy skies. And how about a track temp, 124 degrees. So even though the ambient temp, not that bad, track temp sure is pretty hot, so that's something to keep an eye on, especially in these Xfinity cars where the hotter things are, the slicker it tends to be and the worse the handling tends to be. But I think we got a couple big hitters looking to try to make a statement here tonight. Now, one more thing I did want to look at here in terms of which drivers advance. It will be top 15 from each heat advance. So in Heat 1 here, there will be 9 drivers of the 24 that start that will not make it and will be heading home. So keep that in mind as these guys go at it. 15 laps, not a long ways to go. And final reminder on fuel, 40% in these cars, it's going to be close. 50%, they'd probably get right around 20 laps, maybe 18. 14 is going to be on the fence. We'll see if it's a fuel save, if they have to pit, or if these guys can make it. Let's find out. Great night of racing, and it all starts with the heats. Here we go. Green flag in the air. Heat race number 1 underway at Talladega. Field roaring down the Alabama gang backstretch for the first time here tonight. 2x2 up front with Sean Corbett leading the inside. Malik Ray on the outside. Still a lot of pushing and shoving, too, from those first 2 or 3 rows. And then everybody kind of minding their P's and Q's, sitting in line and just trying to keep whichever lane they're in as tight as possible. And you already saw a few cars starting to fall out of drop. Trouble up front. One turn hard into the wall. It's Malik Ray, and now multiple others going to spin in the back. Heavy front end damage for Malik Ray, one of the favorites each and every week. Destroyed before they even crossed the line to complete the first green flag lap. And oh man, early caution, and it takes out a few of the big hitters. This is going to change everything. Damage for Landon Veliky, one of our fellow broadcasters here at PGR eSports, and he's probably going to be mad at me after this one because he says anytime I broadcast, his luck goes from potentially fighting for a win to just about as bad as it could possibly be. Freddie Bosna has another car with some pretty heavy left front damage. He was involved in this one. At number 20, Toyota Supra. Well, let's go back and look at it. First incident of the night, and it did not take long to break out. Right here on lap 1 as they were coming into the trial. Well, Malik Ray, right as we were panning our camera to the back, got turned out of line here. He was getting pushed by the 31 of David Flanagan, one of the Jack Shack drivers. And watch it first from the chopper view. Now, I will say these Xfinity cars, much more finicky with the pushing. You have to be dead center, and you've got to be very smooth with it. And as they get off the corner, Flanagan gets just a little offset to the right, tries to correct without really getting out of the throttle, and that's always a dangerous kind of 50-50 game. Sometimes you get lucky and the bumpers kind of slide back to an even spot, and in other times like this one, as Flanagan, look how he gets a little bit offset. Now, does Malik move down a little bit? I don't think so. I think Flanagan just, it's always kind of hard to judge when you're right behind a car, and sometimes a little bit of dirty air on the nose can get you tight. But whatever the deal is, Flanagan, it looks like, just sneaks up the track a little bit. It's not much. And just as he tries to correct it and slide right back in behind Malik, again, he's trying to help him go forward here, but then right as he goes to sneak back in, just barely clips him in the right rear, and as he does so, see it turn Malik hard into the outside safer barrier, and the one car is going to come back down and collects the 26, the 62, the 20, and the 44 of Hunter Hastings getting collected there in the end as well, down in the tri-oval grass. So again, I mentioned it, but this is really going to shake things up. Let's zoom it in here and watch again as there's the contact, and you see Malik immediately yanks the wheel left, tries everything to straighten this car up, and if he had another couple of lanes out to the wall, maybe saves it, but just not much you can do when you get turned going that fast. And the 26, again, absolutely nowhere to go right there. You see Corey Taylor trying to sneak through in the 26. I think he's able to pretty much do so. Matthew Taylor, unfortunately, in the 26. Well, I should say, fortunately, as big of a hit as he took, car looked clean from that view. Malik got a big piece of it, and then Hunter Hastings, we saw right at the end there, he didn't really have anywhere to go, and he got collected. Show you what it looked like from his cockpit view. Makes the right move initially, but then as he goes down to the grass, Veliky's down there, and it just really leaves him with nowhere to go. There's not much he could have done in that situation, or really much any of them could have done in that situation. I think that's going to be a theme here tonight. I haven't been around the last couple weeks. I don't know if these guys have had the chance to run the Xfinity car here. But when we head to the next gens, the ARCA cars, the trucks, the pushing is just so much more aggressive. That when you get over here, it's just a whole different beast, the way you got to push, and all it takes is some of these little mistakes to cause these big issues. So the first wreck of the night, but by no means do I think it's going to be the last. All right, back live now up front. Lights on the pace car are still on, but would expect them to go off this time, and we'll get right back to racing here in heat number 1. Sean Corbett, your pole sitter, still being scored as your leader. Garrett Maines right now is in second. You got Jeff Merck third, and Nathan Harper back in fourth. James Waring currently rounding out the top 5. So 12 laps to go. It'll be 11 when we get the restart. Want to give a big hello to everybody out watching in the chat tonight. Again, hope that you are having a good Thursday evening. Good to see everybody back. Jess, Andy, Mike, and Chris. Good to see everybody in the chat. Jess says hello. Andy says, let's go. And Mike Davenport says, big names out early. Yeah, you got that right. And it'll be interesting to see if this changes the dynamic of Heat 2 and the aggression. Some people knowing that maybe they got a better shot tonight with some of the big names being out early. And Chris Carter says this race started like the MMS one ended. Interesting. I didn't get a chance to watch that one, so I'd be curious to know what happened. But I'm assuming it's some sort of big wreck. Something along those lines. But again, if you don't see your favorite driver in the field right now, but they're in the race tonight, don't worry. It means they're coming up in Heat Race 2. As long as they weren't Freddie Bosnez or Malik Ray. In that case, those two are out of the race due to damage from that first incident. Some of these cars back here, though, look like they got prepared pretty well. I mean, Hunter Hastings got the hood back on that car. The car looks fresh after he took some pretty big damage. Landon Velicki obviously still has some pretty significant damage. Bosnez still in the pits as well. Malik has called it. Not too much of a surprise there. Back in row 2 this time. Excuse me, got Garrett Main second, then Merck and Harper back in row 2. They'll be the lead pushers. You know, Garrett going to get aggressive here, but I really like what Sean Corbett's been doing. Had a chance to see him, and I think it was in PGR, maybe about a month or so ago. We saw him out front late with a shot to win it, and he got ditched by a couple of the bigger guys at the end. Now, we had a chance to interview him, and they said that it was more so a run, but I still think that, you know, a guy like Corbett, he's really kind of filling into his shoes now, and he's figured things out. He knows how to run with these guys, and the more comfortable he gets and the more he shows that he knows how to run with these guys, I think the more help he's going to start getting from a Garrett Maines, from a Jeff Merck, and it's going to make his job a lot easier because he knows how to run at the front, but as in all super speedway racing, you can't do it by yourself. You got to have help. All right, here we go. Back under green flag, and it's just 11 laps remaining here in heat race number 1. Great restart for Sean Corbett, but it's actually the outside that gets lined up a little bit quicker. You saw the 75 right there, quickly trying to jump up to the top lane. James Waring trying to get a run back, trying to see if he can catch up to this group, but that was the 25, by the way, of Corey Wright, who made that big move up to the top quickly. And now Tucker McClendon wants a little bit more. He's going to go 3 wide. Dylan Jones will join him as they race off towards turn number 3. The 52 of Chris Melton's going to jump out there as well. They stay 3 abreast as they work into turn number 3. Further back, 2x2, and up front, it's still a battle between Garrett Maines and Sean Corbett. I got to think that that hot track temp is going to maybe help this third lane get rolling, but man, it's still early. Corbett out of control. He's going to go around. Sean Corbett, can he keep it off the inside wall? He does, but they're going to spin further up front. Caution will come right back out. And we are yet to run a green flag lap here tonight in the Intimidator Superspeedway Series. That's James Waring in the 13 machine. Going around, looks like he's got some damage on the rear. Now, Corbett made a heck of a save here. Bad timing, though, in the sense of even though he gets that caution and you think it's a break, he loses all his track position, and definitely some significant left rear damage here for James Waring in this one. But Corbett, there's the right rear damage from where he got hooked. Phenomenal job, though, of not hitting the inside wall. That would have almost guaranteedly ended his night. It looks like John Ward a little bit of damage as well. I think that may have been from the earlier incident. All right, so let's go back and look at what brings out your second caution here. And so Corbett, and I mean, this is almost the same spot as where Malik just got turned. You'd almost would have thought these guys would have been a little bit more conservative, but I guess that's just not the case here. Watch as they come off turn 4. And notice Merck's going to try to size up Corbett, and well, I'll be honest, it looks like he gets it pretty square in that one. That doesn't look oblivious to me. Now, Corbett did actually have that right rear damage already before Merck got there, and I wonder if maybe that damage played just a little bit of a role and why this push seemed so awkward. It definitely does look like Merck is a little bit offset right and kind of swipes him just a little bit. I would say even less than what we saw between Flanagan and Malik, but boy, it just shoots that car right out of control, and you see Corbett immediately has to yank the wheel to the left because he realizes he's about to go up and clean out the outside lane. Merck does a good job checking up because it allows Corbett to come back across without, wrecking Merck and taking out everybody on the inside. And then you see Corbett here go for this wild slide, which I want to zoom in because, I mean, this is ridiculous. He is 45 degrees to the inside wall, and then right at the last second, oh my goodness. I mean, he had to be mere feet away from clobbering that inside wall. Watch it again here from TV2. There's the inside wall, and you really cannot get much closer than that. Big time moment for Sean Corbett. And then further up there, you see James Waring spinning right here, and it looks like one other one got into the grass as well. I think that was Nash Brambilla. Yes, it was. And this is all just going to be as kind of a stack up further back right here. Let's watch it. See the stack up occur. It gets back to Waring. Waring checks up. But then as he's trying to check up for Brambilla, Brambilla gets out of control, saves it, and then Axel Smith gets into the back of Waring. So it sends him here for a 360. But again, no major damage to the front, which is the important part here, these super speedways. So he can go into the pits, get that rear end worked on a little bit. And I think he'll be pretty much good to come back out here. As I want to go ahead and give you one more view of this here from the blimp cam as it develops. Watch it again full time. There goes Corbett. There's the checkup. There goes Waring. For Corbett here, good timing in the sense of at least keeping him in the draft, or I should say he would have lost the draft rather. And here's what it looked like from his point of view. And just watch how quickly the wheel snaps out from under you as a driver. It's so hard to save. Man, close calls. With less than 10 laps to go now, we go back live at the front of the field, where we find Garrett Maines being scored as your race leader. Looks like it'll be a restart with about 7 laps to go. Nathan Harper second, Tucker McClendon third. You got Corey Wright in fourth, and Dylan Jones currently rounding out your top 5. Remember, it is top 15 that advance to the feature, so we go back towards some of those cutoff spots right now. You've got Danny Barnes 13th, Corey Taylor 14th. David Flanagan, the last man in that 15th spot. Matthew Taylor, Joshua McCullough, and James Waring, the 3 closest guys right now on the outside looking in. As Thomas Parker says, heats, yes. 2 heat races tonight, Thomas, and we are currently in heat race number 1. Each one 15 laps in total distance. And 2 cautions on the first lap of both the initial start and the first restart of the night here for heat race number 1. So we'll take a 3rd attempt at it, but we have not officially completed a single green flag lap yet here tonight. So we'll see if we can make that happen on this one. So if you're Garrett Maines here, you've got to push Tucker McClendon, but 7 laps to go is still enough time where I almost think that he may try to still worry about controlling lanes. I don't know if there's any bonus prize for winning the heats tonight. In fact, we can go take a look at the payouts here in just a moment if there are. I don't believe that there is. I think that what they did is just stack the payouts for the top 10 for the feature here tonight, which of course we'll get into as we get to the race. And again, very, very good payouts tonight, so certainly looking forward to those. And again, if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you being here. You are watching the PGR eSports Intimidator Superspeedway Series on PGR eSports. All right, so as pace car works through 3 and 4, might be time to start picking who you got for this race. By the way, obviously fuel no longer a question in this heat. It's something that we talked about. There's a chance we could see it. Of course, that would be assuming the heat went green, and that has obviously not happened yet tonight. We'll see if we can maybe see that in heat race number 2. All right. As the field works their way now off of turn number 4, back in the 2x2 formation. And again, it will be just 7 laps remaining, so not much time for the drivers on the outside looking in. You got to try to get up there, and you got to do it soon. As the flagman has the green flag in hand, he's ready to see some racing. So are we. 7 laps to go in heat race number 1. Here we go. Green flag is back in the air, and it's a good restart for Garrett Maines and Nathan Harper. Front row gets right out of the gate. Further back, though, you saw the 25 there, Corey Wright, second on the outside. Not the best restart as he tries to get through the gears now. And, oh, man, that really stacked up that outside. Matthew Stallneck is going to have to get some momentum back, but this allows the bottom to charge. Garrett gets clear. Tucker gets clear. Will the 00 jump up down the backstretch? No move yet. Tucker McClendon seems more than content to push for the moment. Tucker going to stay on the bottom with Garrett Maines. Those two stay tucked together as they work off towards turn number 3. Harper trying to get something going with the 25 right up top. Nothing doing. Now Maines will jump to the high side. And that really, I think, honestly helped Harper. That lane just could not seem to generate any momentum there through the first half of that lap. But as soon as Garrett jumped up, Harper was able to get connected. And now they stay 2x2. Tucker McClendon, though, looking to see if he can put the nose of his Ford Mustang out in front with 6 laps remaining here in heat race number 1. And if we get a caution at this point, it would be pushing overtime. Still 2x2, though, all the way back, even past the 15th place positions. Nobody has dared to try to go to this third lane just yet. We saw it on the first lap of the last restart. We haven't seen it yet on this one. You see Stallneck still bottling around. It was actually Christopher McCullough, I believe, who made that aggressive jump up to the top. And that sets him up right in front of his teammate, Ken McCullough Jr. So we'll see if McCullough Motorsports maybe tries to make a charge to the front right here. There's the nose view for Christopher McCullough here as he gets a big run on Stallneck. Will he pull out of line? No. He'll stay in line as now they stack it up front. Tucker McClendon, I don't know if it was a block gone wrong, but he's going to get shuffled out, and he'll go all the way to the back as he gets put to that third lane. And that was not by volunteering here as they come off of 4. That's exactly what it's going to be. Tucker's going to try to jump up, and maybe works a little too high right as Garrett got to that push, and I think Tucker felt a little uncomfortable about it. Either way, that sends him all the way to the back. And now he's going to have some work to do with just 4 laps left. See that third lane, though, trying to develop all the way in the back with Hunter Hastings, Axel Smith, and Tucker McClendon. And now Christopher McCullough going to jump out of line, and then Ken McCullough Jr. a few spots behind him going to try to follow. And they've got the 29 working with them as well right now. That's Joshua McCullough in another different scheme here tonight. So McCullough Motorsports has a 3-car team trying to get lined up here on the third lane, and they're making some hayway as they take 4 laps to go. They have just about drawn even with the third row now. Garrett Maines pushing Dylan Jones, who now leads the way as they work into turn number 1. On the bottom, it's the 52, Chris Melton, trying to see if he can poke a nose out in front. Brambilla had a little bit of rear end damage from an earlier incident. Seems like that car is cleaned up. After making a save in just that last incident, he now finds himself second on the bottom. But watch out up top. Christopher McCullough trying to roll all the way to the front. Now there's some contact. The middle's got a checkup big time. The checkup goes all the way back to Stallneck. It looks like they all save it. They keep it together as they remain 3 by 3. As they work out of turn 4 this time, the 26. Joining that third line, Hunter Hastings will bail. Axel Smith joins. They're going to go 4 wide now as Matthew Stallneck trying to take the spot from the 97. He's kind of wedged between Hunter Hastings and Axel Smith, though, right now. Just 3 laps to go. This is where you start maybe thinking about, trouble out back. They're going to wreck. Big hit for Stallneck. Almost up and over. Hastings hard into the wall. Axel Smith is in it, the 26. Matthew Taylor's also involved. Caution is back out for the 3rd time here tonight. Looks like we are headed to overtime here in heat race number 1. Stallneck immediately just going to tow it back to the pits. His night is done. As we will go back and take a look at this one here. Your PGR eSports instant replay. It's all going to start back where the 4 wide is, which shouldn't come as too much of a surprise as they're working off towards turn number 1. 4 wide, it's just starting to squeeze too much. Things are getting a little bit too tight. And as they do so, play this again for you here. You see the 41. Stallneck right there. It's clean there, clean there. But then I think what's going to happen is, notice that the 4 wide looks okay there, but see the 26, he's not quite up by the wall, which, I mean, it doesn't need to be. There's no real reason. He's just kind of running his lane at this moment, and it looks like Stallneck's going to try to kind of force the issue. Tries to go 4 wide, and boy, it really looks to me like, at least from this angle, looks like Hunter Hastings holding his line. I mean, you could argue that, I mean, at this point, I agree that Hastings comes up a little bit, but at this point, they're both holding their line, and Stallneck has a choice. He either backs it out a little bit, or he goes for it, and he goes for it, and as he does so, gets into the 44 of Hastings, and I'm not sure if that just gets Hastings out of shape, or if when Hastings starts to go down the track, maybe a little bit of right rear net coat off the 28. I'm just not sure, but either way, that initial contact sparks it, and then the 44 of Hastings gets back up into the 41 of Stallneck, and that turns Stallneck up towards the 26. Hastings back down the track into the 25 of Corey Wright, and wrecks on from there. Ooh, saw Waring and Ward get turned hard into the wall as well. I didn't catch that on the initial look. Big hits in this one here as we go take you to our turn 3 cam. Our TV 3 camera. That big hit for Stallneck and Taylor, and then Hunter Hastings. See, he's going to go up the track and take a pretty massive shot as well. There goes Ward and Waring. Nowhere to go. Both of those cars up in the air on contact. So a lot of really, really good cars have been taken out here in heat number 1, and it's, not really leaving us with very much left here for the final heat. Or the final restart here in this heat. Another look at it there. This is what it looked like from our wall cam here. I was trying to see who all sneaked through that. Tucker McClendon, I think for the most part, was able to get checked up in time, but he certainly had a pretty crazy looking view of this one as it kind of unfolded. So we'll hop on his roll bar now and see what it looked like. So Tucker able to get checked up, makes it through that one clean, and what do you know? Puts him right in that 15th position, which is the final transfer spot. Now, how it's going right now, I mean, Matthew Taylor in 17th is on the pits with massive damage. So we've only, and John Ward, massive damage, even though he's out on the racetrack. So as it's showing it right now, I'm only seeing 16 cars being scored on the track, and Ward's got smoke out of the back. So I would say his night's done as well. Looks like the motor finally gave way. So with only potentially 15 cars remaining, that would mean that everybody still in the heat is guaranteed to make it through. And if that's the case, I guess I would say you might as well go for it. I mean, again, I don't think there's any money on the line for the heat. It's just transfer positions. Nonetheless, we'll see how these guys decide to go about it. Again, it'll be a 2-lap shootout, our only attempt at a green-white checkered. And because it's our only attempt, we will erase the regular overtime rules, which would be leader has to take the white flag, and instead, these boys are going to race both laps out regardless of how many crashes there are. So that's always something to keep in mind. Maybe not so much for the heat now, especially, you know, kind of with the idea of there's only probably 15, 16 cars left. I take that back because a few more of them have made it out. They're going to try to hope that maybe these guys tear some stuff up front. Hunter Hastings, boy, that car still looks... I don't know how he's done this all night. I mean, we saw the hit that the 44 just took. And that car really doesn't look that bad for a car that just clobbered the outside wall at a 90-degree angle. Nonetheless, Hunter Hastings still may have a shot at it here in terms of trying to transfer through. And so here's what we're going to do. Normally we leave the scoring tower rolling, but since it's only top 15 that advance, we're going to go ahead and change the scoring tower to strictly your top 20. And I want you to watch right around that 15th position as we go through these final 2 laps, because again, that is the final transfer position into the 50-lap feature race that we have coming up here later tonight. And so whoever's got that final 15th spot as this race ends will be who is the last man to make it through to the feature tonight. Don't forget, right after this, we got Heat Race 2 coming up. It'll be the same format, 15 laps. And again, if you don't see your driver in this heat, it is because they are in Heat Race number 2. This will obviously set the inside row. So again, the winner of this will technically be sitting on the pole for the feature event later tonight, which is always a helpful thing when you get in these big, very strong PGR fields, because if you get out back, especially in a race where you get a lot of cautions, well, it just gets so hard to dig out of that hole and try to make your way to the front. So I definitely would look for drivers here to go at it up front, but again, you cannot get in a wreck right here. Not with as many damaged cars as there are. Everybody that's undamaged is basically guaranteed a spot through, as long as they keep it clean the rest of the way. But hey, momentum is everything, and somebody wants to win heat race number 1. The big question is, who is it going to be? John Ward still wants a piece, even with a smoking engine. Here we go. Green flag back in the air. 2 laps to go, and it's a big, big checkup out back for Axel Smith. Everybody else, though, up front gets rolling pretty clean. The damaged car is quickly falling off pace out back. Hunter Hastings ripping through the field, and Hastings trying to grab that 15th spot. Velicki's got it right now. We'll keep tabs up front, though. The 52 of Melton leads the inside. Brambilla and McCullough getting ready to get linked up and try to make a charge here down the backstretch. And usually it's the outside that gets the momentum on that first lap. That's always the hardest to defend. See Garrett Maines trying to close in, but there's just not a lot of pushing and shoving going on right now. Christopher McCullough trying to get to the 23 as they work off into turn number 3. As they come off of turn 4, the starter will have the white flag in the air. The 52 of Melton continues to lead. The bottom has been the stronger lane through that first lap of the restart, but who is going to hold everybody off here for the final lap? White flag in the air, 1 to go in heat race number 1. Brambilla starts to poke a nose out in front as they get down into turn 1. Will we see a third lane try to go? Garrett Maines, he could be the man to lead it. I think Garrett knows that if he jumps out, Ken McCullough Jr. is going to stick with his teammate in the middle. But on the bottom, it is still all Chris Melton leading the way. The 36 of Dylan Jones. Will he have an opportunity through 3 and 4 to try to jump up to the high side? Final time into turn 3, still side by side, both lanes switching momentum. Who's going to get the final push as they work off of turn 4 for the final time in heat race number 1? Here we go, inside versus outside, Brambilla versus Melton. Now Garrett's going to pull to the third lane. Brambilla's going to stay with the middle. Now the bottom's going to charge ahead. Chris Melton's going to beat them all back to the line. He will win heat race number 1 at Talladega. R&R starts the night off with the win, and it's the 52 of Chris Melton getting the job done. And a good 2-lap race there at the end after a pretty caution-filled heat. Certainly going to be interesting to see if that has any reflections on the way that heat race number 2 goes. Well, we're not going to have much time here from the end of this heat to heat race number 2, so as soon as the results pop up here, we'll try to show them to you as quick as we possibly can. As Chris Melton's going to bring it around and likely do a little victory burnout. Again, still a lot of work to be done for the 52, but always a good way to start the night, getting yourself a win and grabbing some momentum. By the way, looking at those kind of 15th place transfer spot, looks like Tucker McClendon was the last man to transfer in. Landon Veliky, the first man out. And again, we'll show you that here when we actually look at your official final heat results. As you can see, the 52, Melton's trying to push Ward across the line. And that was the final car that I believe we were waiting on. Sure enough, it was. So go ahead and look at the results here for heat race number 1. Chris Melton, again, is your heat winner. Nash Brambilla second. Garrett Maines third. And just like that, goes away. But we'll keep it up here. Garrett Maines third. Dylan Jones fourth. Christopher McCullough finished fifth there in heat number 2. Ken McCullough Jr. sixth. Danny Barnes seventh. Joshua McCullough in eighth, with David Flanagan ninth. And Corey Wright rounding out your top 10. Nathan Harper finished 11th. Sean Corbett in 12th. Corey Taylor finishes 13th. Hunter Hastings in 14th. Tucker McClendon finishes in 15th, and so he will be the final car to transfer into the feature from heat race number 1. And that's, of course, assuming no penalties. Landon Veliky takes home 16th, first car to not advance. And then it will be Axel Smith back in at 17th. Matthew Taylor 18th. John Ward 19th. Matthew Stallneck in at 20th. Looks like James Waring finished 21st. Jeff Mert 22nd. Freddie Bosnez 23rd. And Malik Ray in 24th. All right, so with that now, we will go ahead and set up. And actually now, go take a look at your starting grid here for heat race number 2. And starting on the pole for heat race number 2 is going to be John Ellison, the number 34 car. Put down a pretty good lap himself at a 54.214. It'll be the Nightmare eSports driver, but R&R sponsored. Cody Nagel starting to his outside in second. Asher Little back in third with Steve Sizemore fourth. Chris Walker rounding out the top 5 for the starting spot here in heat race number 2. Evan Carlbon 6th. It'll be Chase Mastretta alongside Kenny Reel back in row number 4. Joe Herda in 9th and Stephen Miles rounding out your top 10. Chris Taylor will start back in the 11th spot. Moving on back to the 12th position. Excuse me, it'll be Brian Hennings in 11th. Chris Taylor in 12th. Back in 13th, Mike Davenport with Michael Menchaca in the 32 to his outside in 14th. Sterling Theis back in 15th. It'll be Heath Job in 16th. You've got Mark Vondell in 17th. Trevor Osronoff for the Jack Shack in 18th. Quentin Steinbach 19th. And it'll be James Wagner for Roughneck Racing rounding out your top 20. Nick Seipel, winner of... Actually, I think he got the job done. It was last night. Speaking of Roughneck Racing, he won last night at Daytona in the Cup Series. So hats off to Nick Seipel on that win. He'll start 21st here in heat number 2. Brock Westmoreland for Team PGR in at 22nd. It'll be Chris Carter 23rd and Michael Wingo in 24th. He will round out heat race number 2. Again, race info, same as heat 1, but just in case you missed it, the heat race itself will be 15 laps. The feature later tonight will be 50 laps. 40% fuel for both of the heats, and then the feature, you do have 2 sets of tires in case you need them. No fast repair in either the heat or the feature, so keep that in mind. Fixed setups as always, and 1 green-white checkered if we are to need it. Track temp still quite warm, well over 120 degrees, as ambient temp has now jumped up a degree to 80, relative humidity still at 40%. All right. Well, we saw a lot of early cautions in heat race number 1, but we've heard it a lot before. In real life, when it comes to the duels at Daytona, where one heat's messy, one heat's clean. Let's see if that is the case here tonight. Flagman has the starting flag in hand, and here we go. Heat race number 2 to decide the other 15 drivers that will make the feature tonight is underway. Here we go. Side by side down the Alabama gang backstretch for the first time here in heat race number 2. Up front, John Ellis Jr. leads the way in the 21. Getting pushed right now by the 01 of Asher Little. It's Cody Nagels on the outside. And that beautiful green, white, and black James Wagner's welding machine. And he's getting pushed right now by the 8. He's trying to figure out if that was his teammate Chase Mistretta or the other 8, which is Steve Sizemore. That is indeed Steve Sizemore, another driver who's been really coming into his own here lately and been figuring things out and how to run with these big guys. Just continues to get better and better. No third lane yet, but further back, looks like there was a couple drivers maybe giving it a thought. Looks like one of them is the 97 of Chris Taylor. Just behind him, Michael Menchaca. It'd be interesting to see if the 32 thinks about going with that 97 if he does make that jump out of line. Still side by side up front, though. Right now, everybody's still pushing pretty even because everybody's got fresh temps. But if they stay 2x2 for another, I would say 2 or 3 laps, that's when you're going to start to see somebody have to control these lines. As that second car, the lead pusher, starts to get hot, somebody's going to have to give. But right now, seems like Asher Little may be able to stay tucked just a little bit tighter up to the rear bumper of John Ellis Jr. than Steve Sizemore is to Cody Nagels. See Sizemore ducking that right side out, trying to get a little bit of clean air to the grill, anything to cool down the temps just a little bit. And I will say that is the one advantage of sitting on this outside line when you're 2x2 is I always felt like it's a little easier to cool trouble. Big hit out back. Up in the air goes the 97 of Chris Taylor. Surely this will draw the caution, and there it is. First caution of the night. Chris Taylor destroyed early in the going. That was a one-car incident. I don't know how, with as big of a hit as he took. But Taylor immediately going to take it back to the pits. Major, major damage. So that will be the first car eliminated out of heat number 2 here tonight. And it's been kind of a bloodbath early in these heats. And these guys got out to a couple laps, but I don't know if that's going to be a push gone wrong in the back or something of that nature. Either way, that was a huge hit for the 97. Let's go back and look at it here to our PGR eSports instant replay. It's Michael Menchaca behind him. And one of the big things you'll hear with these cars, at least most people will say, you cannot push in the corners. If you're up front and everybody's comfortable with it, maybe you can risk it. But the overall idea is you can't push in the corner. And if you're going to try it, you have to be absolutely perfect. You see the 32 Menchaca gives him, just the slightest tap. But just the way these cars are, they're just not very stable when it comes to pushing in the corner. And I think Menchaca actually kind of gives him a slanted push here. Yeah, you see how he's a little bit offset to the left? So right as he actually lines him up to give him the push, it's almost going to be like he's pushing him a little bit from the left, which just immediately turns the 97 down. He tries to correct right to save it. And in doing so, Chris Taylor comes right back across the nose of Menchaca, and that is a huge hit. Actually lands on the rear windshield. I guess I should say, yeah, the rear window, of Heath Job. I think Heath was okay, but see the 32 of Menchaca unfortunately getting a fair amount of damage in this one as well. And watch this here from his roll bar view. I think this will give you a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about with it's just the slightest of push, but it just doesn't take much. So watch, he's trying to help him out, getting just a little bit closer. And right there's the little tap. All it takes. And again, that was a huge hit for Chris Taylor. Heath Job, I'm curious to go to his gearbox view to this because I think he had a really interesting look at this one based off of where that 97 initially landed. Watch it again here from Heath Job. You see the sparks, and oh, it was actually Trevor Oswernoth. I take that back, of whose rear window he landed on. See if we can go to the nose view here for Oswernoth. Look at that. 97 up, and then actually, yes, so he does land on the 760, and then eventually bounces back down and comes to a halt, but that's just a huge hit for Chris Taylor. All the wrecks that we've had so far tonight, whether it's been one car or multiple cars, have been just really big hits for any of the parties involved. Play this full speed again for you here. Watch it from the turn 1 and 2 cam. This is going to be pretty much what it looks like when it's coming directly at you here. And back this up one more time. See if we can look at that view again from turn 1 and 2. Yeah, it doesn't quite happen in that cam. It's actually a little bit later. It was more so as they were coming off of turn 2. It's kind of where it was starting at. And the 97 ultimately slides down. Major damage, though, going to be something that you can't recover from. And a lot of times there'll be a fast spare in the heats, but not tonight. So Chris Taylor, the first man out here in heat race number 1. Michael Menchaca maybe as well, with some of the damage that he suffered to his right front. All right, so it will be, looks like probably 9 laps to go when we actually get the restart. John Ellis currently leading the field here in heat race number 2. Asher Little second, Cody Nagels third. You got Steve Sizemore fourth, Chase Mistretta fifth, Evan Carlbon sixth, and then the man currently sitting in 7th is the man who's actually carrying an onboard view for us here tonight. Doesn't normally do it, but he is tonight. Joe Herta for the Jack Shack, trying to see if he can get the job done. The driver out of Fontana, California. Joe, one of the veteran Superspeedway drivers for the Jack Shack team, and I think that right now Joe is more so focused on getting to the feature, and then he'll be a little bit more pumped up here tonight. But Joe looks like he's got a pretty interesting paint scheme on the front. The Jack Shack boys never disappoint when it comes to paint schemes. Let's see what he's got on the front hood here tonight. He's got somebody's face on there. I can't tell whose it is. But if you're ever looking for some sort of either inside joke paint scheme or just a really good paint scheme, Jack Shack makes it all. We either see Joe Herta in a paint scheme like this, or we'll see Trevor Oswernoth in a beautiful Fast and Furious paint scheme. These guys do it all. So for Joe Herta, right now again in that 7th spot. Still, I would say with a little bit of work to do if we were in the feature, but well inside that transfer window, so not too worried. In fact, if we go back to kind of the final few spots in that transfer window right now, in that 15th position at the moment, it's Chris Carter in the 25 machine, and Chris trying to hold off Heath Job, Trevor Oswernoth, Mike Davenport, Chris Walker. And then a few spots in front of him, you've got Heath Job, Michael Wingo, Sterling Thies. A lot of really talented drivers here that are going to be fighting for that final spot. And again, if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you being here. Devin Ray says, will Job finish or get caught up in a wreck? Infinite Frost says, only one night Shack, not in this heat. How many heats is there? 2 total. Devin says, on Job, dude has no luck. Sorry if I jinxed him. And then Vesper says landed on the right side, gave damage to his left side. Nice iRacing, yep. Tell you what, don't get me started on iRacing damage models and safety rating systems. Whew, you could go all day on that category. But nonetheless, single digits remaining here. It'll be 9 laps to go. 15 spots left to transfer. And up front, these guys put on a pretty good show during that last small green flag run. Let's see what they can do during this one. John Ellis Jr. will roll back into the Geico restart zone as the green flag is back in the air. Asher Little did not get a good restart. Ellis and Nagels actually caught him sleeping a little bit. That's going to allow John Ellis Jr. and Cody Nagels to both pull clear by the time they get down towards turn number 1. We'll see if Cody is able to jump up. Chase Mistretta in the 8 might also pull clear. In fact, he does. And he will jump up. Will Cody Nagels try to join his teammate? Yes, he does. Ellis will block. Does Nagels look a lane lower? Yes, he does. That stacks him up a little bit on the outside and will allow the 3rd lane to develop here. Evan Carlbon jumps out. He'll get some help here from Kenny Reel. Now Asher Little's going to make his move to the outside as well. The Jack Shack lines up with a 4-car strong run on the outside. Asher Little, the only thing standing on, or excuse me, I should say standing in between the Jack Shack and the lead right now. And for a minute, it looked like Carl Bond was considering splitting the 0-1-4 wide, but I think he's going to stick to just pushing for the moment. You can see the 21 of John Ellis Jr. really getting pushed right now by the 8 of Chase Mistretta, who's actually wiggling around. He was pushing so hard here as they get off into turn number 1, and Cody Nagels still staying clear. I think Joe Herta right now just kind of managing his temps. But if you're Asher Little, you're in a pretty stressful spot. Steven Miles has now made his way back up here as well. And Carl Bond might be able to push this 0-1 to the lead here down the backstretch. He will. The middle starts to stall. Asher Little goes to the point, and he will make the double clear as he goes all the way down to the bottom off into turn 3. That's a big clear, too, because what that does is cycles the temps on this third lane. Carl Bond will get a chance to cool, but how much does Kenny Reel have left to push with? As Nagel's going to get clear to the bottom here if he wants to take it, but it looks like for now he's content with staying to the middle. Now he'll drop down and give John Ellis Jr. a chance to cool the temps a little bit. No, it's going to be close. Carl Bond trying to get clear as they get into one, but he just can't quite do it. See Asher Little trying to push Nagels a little bit on entry to the corner, but notice what they don't do. They're not pushing in the center of the corner right now. They saw what just happened on that last incident between Michael Menchaca and Chris Taylor, and I think the field's decided to go a little bit more conservative here and maybe not push as aggressive, at least not if you're one of the cars that's in these transfer positions. But as you get back around that final transfer spot, Chris Walker, Michael Wingo, Mark Vondell, all fighting for it, and when they're 3 wide like this, it's really anybody's game. That's why you really can't afford to just bail out of it, especially now that we're coming to just 6 laps to go. And don't forget to stick with us after heat race number 2, because after this will be the 50-lap featured event here tonight. Looking forward to that one. 40% fuel will mean pit stop, something that we didn't get the opportunity to see in heat race number 1 or here in heat race number 2. And they are still 3x3. Carl Bond and Reel have been trying to cycle and push, just do anything they can to get that 78 clear, but it just has not been able to work out yet. So we hop on the cockpit view. Whoa, man, Kenny Reel saw a close moment up front and had to check up to realign with Carl Bond. And you think that's a crazy view. I still think the toughest one is always this guy right here, Chase Mistretta, whoever is that lead pusher in the middle, because you're pushing for all it's worth. But no, he's going to jump out to the third. How about this bold move from Chase Mistretta to jump up to the third lane? Usually, I was going to say, as a lead pusher, you're in a comfortable spot. Maybe no, not when you're in the middle. And so Mistretta is going to do the over-under as he'll pull clear. Oh, well, almost clear, not quite able to get it. And now that's going to stack the third lane right back up. The bottom is really rolling now as they come off the turn 2. It is all Asher Little and Cody Nagels, but Asher going to jump up to the middle. Nagels wanted to cover, but he wasn't able to do it. You see Nagels quickly back up to the bottom here, trying to get some sort of push, some sort of momentum generated. And the 21 of John Ellis Jr. not pushing Asher Little yet. Now he'll give him a little shot through the center of the corner. And every lane side drafting for all it's worth right now. That's really all you can do, especially if you're in one of these spots as, you know, the leader. You're getting as much of a push as you can out back, but your job is to still keep that lane disciplined. Side draft as much as you can. Try to pull the bottom 2 lanes back. Trouble out back. 2 around. 1 going to go into the outside wall. Caution going to come back out. And I think this one may involve Christopher Carter, and it does. The 88 with some pretty significant damage to the right rear. You just hope that the suspension's not knocked out of it for Chris Carter. This caution coming with 4 laps to go means it is going to send us into the 1 green-white checkered. So we saw overtime in Heat 1. It looks like we're going to see it again here. Heat number 2. Mark Vondell a little slow. I'm not sure if he was involved in this one or not, or if it was just Chris Carter. Let's go back and look at it here to find out. So this is, they're actually 3 wide here coming through the trial. Well, that's James Wagner in the middle. And we'll go first here to the chopper view. All right, so here we go. You see James Wagner in the middle, Chris Carter on the bottom. As they're coming out of the tri-oval, you see Chris starts to drift up, maybe a little bit of a checkup out in front, but the checkup doesn't really get back to the 88. See Chris still drifting up. Wagner continues to move. And then at this point, contact and back that up again. You know, I got a couple ideas on this one here, but I want to play it slow one more time before I say them. See, so watch Wagner's car. It looks like he's pretty much straddling that white line. Now he's a little bit to the left, still straddling it. I can't really put that one on Wagner at all. And here's what I was going to say, because I'm sure Chris is probably not going to be too pleased with this one, because from his point of view, especially when you're focused out front, you feel like you just got turned. But, I mean, Chris is moving up the track, and, you know, I'm really not sure why, because Wagner's established up here. I mean, he's well up there. He's been up there, and Carter just kind of keeps going. Wagner actually moves up even a little bit higher just to give Carter that little bit of extra room right here. And, you know, maybe you could argue that Wagner creeps down, you know, an inch right at the end there. But I still think Carter's just moving up on him, and I'm not really sure why. Again, James was kind of established in that middle lane. If you're Chris, I don't really understand why you don't just stick to the bottom there where the draft is. Let's see if we can opt to his onboard view here and maybe get a better idea of something maybe I missed. This is going to be, again, the roll bar view, and watch it. That's after the contact starts, but watch it back from when he initially starts moving up. This is as they get into the tri-oval. Behind Davenport, you hear a brief checkup, and then slowly starts working up here until eventually contact's made, turns him to the outside line. He got into Chris Walker, but Chris was able to escape, and then Mark Vondel does get a little bit of damage as he has to kind of push through him right there the last second. So yeah, that's a tough one there for Wagner, Walker, and Vondel, innocent bystanders. Again, I'm not sure the exact reason as to why Carter was walking up the racetrack right here, but once he gets turned, there you see the slight damage for Big Roos, Chris Walker. He was able to save it. Again, I don't think that rear damage is too bad for him. Mark Vondel, I don't think, got too much damage either. Even Chris Carter really doesn't get too much from this one, but it's really the loss of track position that's going to kill him here, because we're just not going to have enough laps left to try and get all that back. It will certainly be a dogfight to try to make it to one of those top 15 transfer positions. So as we go back live now, you see the 88 trying to make his way back up towards the rear of the field. And lights are still on the pace car, so we'll be going at least one more lap around. But it is Cody Nagels being scored as your race leader. Asher Little in second. Joe Herta third. John Ellis Jr. fourth. And Stephen Miles currently rounding out your top five. Steve Sizemore sixth. Chase Mistretta seventh. Brian Hennings eighth. Evan Carlbon ninth. And Sterling Thess rounding out your top 10. Heath Joe back in 11th. Kenny Reel 12th. Michael Wingo in 13th. It'll be Nick Seipel 14th. And Trevor Osranoff rounding out the top 15, which again is that final transfer position. If you're just tuning in, again, we appreciate you being here. Hope that everybody is enjoying their Thursday night, Thursday evening, depending on which part of the country that you're in. And by the way, I do want to give a big thanks to the last couple weeks for, I know it was Landon on the call last week. I'm not sure if there was a broadcast the week before that or not, but a couple issues and just been busy with a lot of things recently, so apologize for not being around as much, but we certainly still appreciate everybody that tunes in. I'll tell you what, I think if you're Cody Nagels here, just with some of the chaos we've seen and some of the pushes that have gone wrong in these cars, just stay on the bottom. I mean, I don't think Joe Herta would do anything too aggressive here in that, third spot and lead pusher position on the inside. If there's money for the heat, maybe, but from any of the info I have, I haven't heard that there is. I know these guys are a lot more aggressive than I certainly am out there, but I just think as a driver, if I'm down on the racetrack right now, let's say I'm Joe Herta, I think my mindset is, I'm content to push here. I'm in a transfer spot. If I finish anywhere here in the top 5, I'm going to be starting near the front of the field on the outside line. No point in trying some crazy move that could get you wrecked, but hey, at the same time, I get it. We're all out here to race, so if maybe coming to the checkered flag, move opens up, why not? Go for it. That'll be the big question. So we'll see. Don't forget here, same rules as the overtime for heat number 1. There will not be a caution. We are going to run both of these laps out, even if everybody wrecks it up. On the restart, it'll be go for it, and whoever gets through clean is going to have the best shot at winning this race. By the way, only 2 cars still being scored out of this one. We had about 10 just about with major damage in the first one. And by the way, those 2, if you're curious, is Michael Menchaca and Chris Taylor, both involved in the first caution of the night. So unfortunately, they will not be advancing to the featured event later tonight. All right, the iRacing.com pace car going to pull off for the final time here in the heats. And turn the field over to Cody Nagels and Asher Little. Asher got caught sleeping on the last restart. See if Nagels can get him again here. Watch for Joe Herta to try to get a little bit of a jump here to get that 6 out in front a little bit quicker. Green flag back in the air. The 1 doesn't get a jump, but the 6 of Nagels, your leader, sure does. That allows Nagels to quickly pull out to a position where he can go with whatever lane he wants to go with. They work off into turn number 1. The outside has completely just decimated. There's nobody up there. Oh, man, watch out. A push right there from Estrella to Miles. Almost turned them around. Now they're going to wreck out back. Heath Job is in it. The 74's in it. The 24's in it. Multiple cars involved in this one. Oh, man, that's going to have a mess for the transfer spots. Who's going to get it back rolling the quickest? Looks like right now it's Heath Job and Chris Walker trying to fight for that 15th spot. Meanwhile, back up front, Cody Nagels leads what is left of that pack. And it's about 6 to 7 cars right now going at it. Make it 8 now. As Evan Carlbon is now able to pull up to the inside. It's a 4-on-4 tandem. As they work into the trial, well, they will see the white flag. 1 lap to go here in heat race number 2. Joe Herta now going to poke his Toyota Supra out in front. The Nagels quick to fight back. The inside, though, still has more organization. Remember, Stephen Miles and Mastretta, they can't go anywhere. They're trapped. But will John Ellis Jr., Asher Little, or Steve Sizemore jump out and try to make a move on the 6 of Cody Nagels? Or will they stay tucked in line? Still 2x2 as they work down the backstretch. For the final time in Heat 2, Nagels tried to get clear, but not quite enough of a push to do so. Stephen Miles backs off, as does John Ellis Jr., Both lanes going to line up for one more big push here off the corner. Still 2x2. Now Asher Little's going to pull high. That dims the middle down to just 2 cars. The bottom still has more help. They'll roll with 4. Nagel's going to try to side draft. It'll be a photo finish all the way back to the line. Who gets here first? Joe Herta. No, was it Nagels? I couldn't tell. 1,000th of a second is our margin of victory, but I can't tell who got it. Joe Herta's got a grin either way. I think it may have been Nagels. Oh my goodness, either way, what a finish. There's the view of Joe Herta, but I think again that it is Cody Nagels who got the win from initial view. I thought it was going to be Herta. Upon second view here, I think it might have been Nagels. We'll have to go to official scoring to know for sure. Oh my goodness. Well, let's go back and look at this just in case it tries to move on to the warm-up and not want to let us see it here. Go back here to TV1. Speed this up a little bit. See if we can get the photo finish view. I think that's going to be realistically the best angle to see this here. As we wait for the field. There they are. All right, we'll go to the photo finish cam here and play this nice and slow. And we're going to have to probably go frame by frame on this one. Oh, I think it is Nagels. Barely. Oh, my goodness. You talk about close. It doesn't get much closer than that. Yeah, Nagels got it right there by probably, I don't know, half a bumper maybe. Point being, it was not much. What a close finish right there for heat race number 2. Hopefully we can see more of that here for the feature later tonight. Nonetheless, let's go back and look at finishing results here for heat number 2 to see who transferred through to the feature. As again, it was Cody Nagels, your race winner by officially 2/1000ths of a second is the official scoring on that finish. Joe Herta finishes 2nd. John Ellis Jr. in 3rd. Stephen Miles 4th. Asher Little in 5th with Chase Mastretta 6th. Steve Sizemore takes 7th. Evan Carlbon 8th. Kenny Reel in 9th. And Mike Davenport rounding out your top 10. Trevor Osmanoff finishes in 11th. James Wagner 12th. Mark Vondell in 13th with Chris Carter in 14th. And Chris Walker for the Jack Shack, the final transferring car through. He finishes in 15th. Brian Hennings finishes 16th in Heat 2. It'll be Quentin Steinbach in 17th. Michael Wingo finishing back in 18th. Brock Westerlund 19th. And Heath Job finishing in 20th. Nick Seipel, 21st. Sterling Thess, 22nd. Michael Menchaca, 23rd. Chris Taylor finishing in 24th. All right, well, warm-ups are underway, which means the drivers are just a few minutes away from getting this race officially started with your featured event here tonight. So you see the timer there on the top left of your screen. As the countdown continues, we will keep things live with the warm-up, but we are going to take a quick break, so we will go side by side. Stick with us. The feature's coming up here at Talladega.
I played a couple of simulators and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
But you feel like you're really driving, it feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing. Three by three. Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. Finish. Who gets it at the line? Cody Nagels wins it at Talladega.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the PGR eSports Intimidator Superspeedway Series. Live from the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway. Heat race 1 and 2 are complete, and that means we are getting ready for the feature event here tonight. And looking forward to it. Again, if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you being here. You're watching Austin Green on PGR eSports. Just about 20 seconds left here in the warm-up before we will get down to the quick grid and then get underway tonight's featured events. A couple big names out of it tonight, including obviously Malik Ray. I think that was one of the big surprises. Landon Veliky, we've seen him win a couple times at PGR, not making it tonight. Drivers that were caught up in some of the chaos here for these heats. It's just always so interesting how much of an impact something like that can have. When you get to the featured event and you're missing some of the big names, it almost gives some of the guys that are used to seeing those people up front a little bit more confidence, saying, hey, there's a couple of the guys that are used to cash and not here tonight. I need to make sure I'm a little bit extra aggressive. It's a good chance for potentially an underdog win. So we'll keep an eye on that as we get closer to the end of the race. As we turn things live, though, now, looks like the field is ready to get gridded up. So with that, how about we head right down trackside and get into tonight's starting grid. For your featured event, the pole sitter and the winner of heat race number 1, that is Chris Melton. For Roughneck Racing, he will start on that pole position here tonight. And on the outside pole, heat race number 2 winner, that is Cody Nagels for Nightmare Esports. Nash Brambilla, he'll start in the 3rd spot here tonight for Team PGR, with Joe Herta back in 4th. Garrett Maines and Dylan Jones will make up row number 3. It'll be Stephen Miles back in 7th with Christopher McCullough, the first of the McCullough Motorsports drivers in the feature here tonight. He'll start in 8th. Asher Little back in 9th. And Ken McCullough Jr. back in 10th. Chase Mastretta starts in 11th. It'll be Danny Barnes starting back in the 12th position. Back in row number 7 here tonight, it'll be Steve Sizemore alongside Joshua McCullough. Evan Carlbon in 15th with David Flanagan in 16th. Kenny Reel back in 17th with Corey Wright 18th. Mike Davenport in 19th. And Nathan Harper rounding out your top 20. Trevor Osmanoff starts 21st for the Jack Shack. It'll be Sean Corbett in 22nd. James Wagner starts in 23rd. It'll be Corey Taylor back in 24th. Mark Vondell starts 25th in the 59 machine. Hunter Hastings 26th. Christopher Carter 27th with Tucker McClendon 28th. Chris Walker 29th. And Landon Velicki. Wonder if he maybe got in off a penalty call. It's showing him... Oh, no, it's actually showing him as 31st. Brian Hennings 30th. That was the other thing I forgot to mention was if there were any penalties issued, we could see 1 or 2 drivers that were technically outside of the top 15 transfer spots still making it in. We'll get to that here in just a moment. Again, your race info, just in case you missed it earlier. We are now into your feature event. So the distance tonight going to be 50 laps at 40% fuel. So the idea is we should see a few green flag pit stops. You do have 2 sets of tires in the pits, which in most series I would say isn't a big deal. You don't really need them. And these Xfinity cars with a track temp of over 120 degrees, if you get an opportunity for tires, you are definitely going to be thinking about taking them. No fast repair as always. Fixed setups, and then 1 green-white checkered if we were to need them. Hey, look at that. A little bit of a pit report in the chat. Tucker McClendon says John Ellis got DQ'd. And so Brian Hennings takes that final 30th position. So Velicki just won out. But again, Hennings technically didn't transfer via position. But due to a DQ, he was the first man out in Heat 2. So we will get to see 74 Brian Hennings race here in the feature tonight. All right, 50 laps of action after 30 laps of heat racing. It's what you have all been waiting for here tonight. Big money on the line, and when I say big money, payouts are really good tonight, and it's top 10. And think about that, 1/3 of the field going to be getting paid pretty good here tonight. We'll talk about that later, but here we go. It's time to go racing in the Intimidator Superspeedway Series. Green flag in the air in the feature at Talladega. Good restart. Oh, trouble out back. Major trouble right on the restart. Smoke out of the back for Corey Wright. He's involved and he's done. Oh, I have a feeling that's a missed shift and a blown motor. Stephen Miles on the apron. I'm not sure if he got any damage. I saw a couple other cars that had to scatter. I think Brian Hennings is okay. Chris Walker, I couldn't tell if that was the other car I saw scatter or not. But, oh man, Corey Wright, you do all that work to get yourself into the feature. And he has already toasted the motor. No fast repair. So he's done. And in fact, looks like that left front's wobbling around as well. So maybe it wasn't a missed shift. This may have been from a big hit. Or it could have been a missed shift. We're going to find out as soon as we go to replay here. But first caution. It's going to click off some laps here before we even got to go green. Let's go back here. Look at this one. I mean, this is... We didn't even see an issue this quick. Oh, I think this is going to be a missed shift and a blown motor. Let's first go to the cockpit view. Again, this is Corey Wright. Listen as they get to the restart here. And listen to the RPMs. That's exactly what it is. Massive missed shift here from Corey Wright. And I'll tell you exactly what he does here. So in these Xfinity cars, you start in second gear. And that's what he is right here as they hit the gas. And remember, for anybody, I know most of the people watching at home know this, so I'm not trying to dumb it down for anybody, but just in case anybody's curious, remember, these guys are using H-pattern shifters, at least for the most part. A couple guys may be using the sequential, or excuse me, the paddles, but when you use the H-pattern, first gear to second, you pull it straight down, and then as you go from second to third, you go up to the side up, and sometimes, if you're not careful, when you try to do that, you go straight from second back to first. And that's exactly what Corey Wright does. Watch the RPMs jump. He gets in the red line, then watch the tack. Boom. Jumps up to max. And when you do that, you only get, you know, half a second before that motor's going to blow up when you're running so many RPMs. The engine just can't handle it. And it immediately blows up. That's a tough break. Not only for Corey Wright, but then watch here as he blows the motor. And obviously, Harper has nowhere to go. He can check up as much as he wants, but it's so quick that he tags the back of the 25, gets some damage on his nose, and then as Wright comes back down, he tags the right rear of Mike Davenport. Pretty big hit there. And then Davenport sliding around, was able to correct it, and a few others actually went down to try to miss it. Davenport obviously going to be the other car that I would be concerned about here damage-wise, as that was a pretty strong hit there in the right rear, and that certainly always makes you wonder about, does he get damage from a hit like that? Let's see here, after the contact, which way was his wheel facing here? That's pretty far to the left. That's definitely not a very encouraging sign here for Davenport. Let's see if you can see the right rear here, if it looks like... Again, watch this hit here. Whenever you get hit in the suspension components, that's always the most vulnerable spot in these cars. A little bit tough for me to tell just from that view. Definitely something we'll look at for Davenport to see if he does have some left rear damage. Right rear damage, excuse me. An early incident like that certainly going to change a few things up here. As watch it again from the starter cam. Didn't even make it to the start-finish line when this happened. So the first caution of the night flies before we even cross the start-finish line to take the green flag. And so as we go back live now, we will reset and try things again, but this is a little interesting. Looks like you had a few drivers stay out. I'm actually surprised that some of them decided to pit. I mean, we didn't even run a lap, but it looks like that must have been the case considering the swap up here with Steve Sizemore now being scored as your leader. Evan Carlbon second, Trevor Osbornoff third, Chris Walker fourth, and Sean Corbett rounding out your top five. By the way, we'll go back and actually try to look at some of the damage here, or look at some of the damaged cars, I should say, to see if anybody got back out. Corey Wright, again, officially done for the night. Looks like Davenport, though, was at least able to return, so that is some good news there. As Rebel Stream says, I have missed a few I've done that quite a few times in my Civic, he says, referring to missing a shift. Tomorrow Racing says same. And Lisa W says, I've missed a gear in my Saturn, but luckily no high RPMs. Tell you what, I've done it on iRacing before. I haven't had the chance to do it in real life yet. But it is certainly something, and it's one of the most frustrating things as a driver, too, because you just can't believe it. You shift 1,000 times, you know, throughout however many races you do a week with no issues. You just never think you're going to make that mistake. So it's basically muscle memory, but one slip, and unfortunately, that kind of thing can happen. Danny Eshelman says, what's up, Austin? Danny, it's good to see you. I don't think I've seen you out here in a while. Hope that you're doing well. As we get ready for... Boy, I feel like I'm saying we get ready for the start. It's technically a restart, but we, again, haven't technically actually ran a lap yet, so this will act as kind of that first start of the night. Try things again here. Now, by the way, looking at the fuel window, I know it's still a ways away, but obviously a green flag stop would play a pretty big role in the outcome and pace of this race if we were to get to one. And so 40% in these cars, again, I think is probably going to be somewhere between the 15 to 20 lap range is going to be my general guess. So if that is indeed the case, we could be seeing that first pit stop, or at least talking about it right around lap 20. But again, we've got to make it that far first. And so far, early cautions and abundant cautions seems to have been the theme tonight, just through those first two caution races. But about a mix-up up front. Steve Sizemore, we're going to try to lead him some laps here at Talladega. Evan Carlbon's got one of his Jack Shack teammates. In fact, he's got a few of them up here near the front. Joe Herta, Trevor Osbornoff, Chris Walker, all inside the top 10. See if they can get together and make anything happen. Here we go. Green flag back in the air. Let's try this again. Does everybody get through the shifts a little bit cleaner this time? Looks like it, although a little bit of stack up. No, Ken McCullough Jr. gets turned this time. Another restart incident, but this time it's the 03. Ken McCullough Jr. looked like he was able to get that car stopped just before the inside wall. So good news for the 03 is I don't think he has any damage, but he is going to immediately lose the pack. Man, restart chaos continues. Meanwhile, up front, that has caused all sorts of disorganization through the lanes. The inside had the advantage, but the outside's got the run. And here comes Joe Hurta with a push from Christopher McCullough. They're going to try to go to the lead as they get to turn 3, but now Carlbahn has to hold the inside. The 45 of Corbett trying to push him to keep him even. Joe Hurta is able to get clear, so he'll quickly jump down to the bottom. Look at the size of the pack out back. And that giant group trying to chase down the smaller pack that was able to get some separation. Mike Davenport acting as kind of a bridge at the moment. And here comes that group. It'll be interesting to see where they go. They're going to have a massive run. You can already see Oswornoff and Cody Nagels trying to shift their way to the top. They know exactly what they want to do with this run when they get there. And here we go. Sizemore jumped up to block. Oswornoff's going to take it a lane higher. Nagels will follow. Now Garrett Maines is going to jump up the outside with a brief checkup. Now Maines and Oswornoff going to try to get linked up here as they work off towards turn number 3. Still 3 wide, but all of a sudden Maines has lost all of his help, so he's going to have to fade to the back here and try to jump in line behind James Wagner. Up front, it's Evan Carlbahn on the point, trying to control the bottom lane. Trying to control the outside, both lanes rather. As now Garrett's going to make another jump to the third. Will Nagels go with him this time? Yes, he does. Those two trying to generate some momentum as now Flanagan going to peek his nose to the high side, and all of a sudden, we are seeing a lot more movement and lead changes here so far in the feature than what we saw through the heats. As we show you the dashboard telemetry along with the weather, still over 120 degrees in terms of track temp, and speeds in these Xfinity cars low to mid 190s at the end of the straightaways. And a little bit of a late move to the high side right there by the 74. Man, that was a close call by Brian Hennings to jump to the top there at the end, but he saw the run. And Cody Nagels bailing out, certainly going to hurt the momentum of that third lane for the moment. Now let's go back here while we have a chance and look at what happened here to Ken McCullough Jr. on this restart. We saw trouble on the first restart that brought out a caution. This one was close, but as they get going here, it's a little bit of a stack up. No harm, no foul, and then, ooh, Ken really gets a run out of nowhere. That makes me think there was another stack up right here. Watch. Chris Walker, does he miss a gear? No, it's just another stack up. Yeah, you see the fire out of the pipes there for Chris. He sees the check up in front, and so he gets on the brakes, and as he does so, Ken McCullough Jr., nowhere to go. He has to check up, but in the process of doing so, unfortunately runs into the back. Chris Walker, and that sends him around. Watch it again. There's the initial checkup, and there's the bigger checkup. That's the one that sent Ken McCullough Jr. around ultimately. Luckily for Ken, though, was able to stop just before hitting this inside wall, or if he did hit it, it was just barely. Certainly, again, not giving him too much damage or anything significant to worry about. All right, so back up front, still 3 wide, but that third lane has made even more progress. Brian Hennings and Garrett Maines have drawn even with the third to fourth row, trying to get even further now as they work on to the Alabama gang backstretch. By the way, in the chat, I saw a couple updates. Make sure we didn't miss anything. Tyler Vickery says, crossing my fingers that I don't do that on a restart my Bomber A car. Danny Estron says, just got home from work, been crazy, and my old lady said I needed to take a break for a while. Missed the racing big time. Well, we miss you too, Danny. Rebel says, good save. John Ellis says, wasn't thinking change lanes before the finish. Didn't change outcome of the race, but rules are rules. Got to stand by him. Tough break for Ellis. For sure, missing the heat after getting the finish needed. As now back to the track, Brian Hennings going to pull clear of the middle. He'll take it. Can he go all the way to the bottom? Yes, he can. The 3 wide move finally worked for Hennings as that third lane took forever to get there. But once they did, Garrett Maines, one of the veterans in money racing and the veterans in iRacing, was able to push that 74 clear. He took it all the way down to the bottom. And we'll see if that now gives these lanes a chance to shuffle yet again with some fresh temps in the third. Maybe some fresh temps even on the bottom as well. I think if you're Evan Carlbahn here, you're not really able to do much right now. I think Joe Hurta is trying to kind of manage the temps. Now that third doesn't have a ton of help. 3 cars is enough, but usually not enough to necessarily make a pass. More so just to kind of stay even and try to hold off until you get even more pushers. And now you see Carlbahn He's going to push Flanagan to the front. Little up and over move right there from Flanagan. That was a beautiful move, nonetheless, from the 31, but that did allow the 78 of Carlbahn to probably cool, at least momentarily. As now Flanagan going to jump right back up to the top. Garrett Main still on the outside. Chris Walker and Hunter Hastings trying to push their way up there. We hop on a few different onboard views now. This is what it looks like for Mike Davenport on the inside. Right now about third or fourth in line. And all he's able to do is really ride and try to stay tucked as close as he can to Corbett without necessarily hitting him. But now as you see the 74 go up, all of a sudden his job shifts. Now he becomes the lead pusher. And so he'll have to do a lot more on that bottom than just simply ride around. Man, the 74 Hennings, it almost looked like the rear tires jumped off the racetrack right there with how big of a push he got from David Flanagan. And it just feels like with each push and each run, we're getting closer and closer to another caution. These guys are making some really, really aggressive moves up here. But that's what you got to do to try to stay out front in these kind of races. Meanwhile, further back, we had one car drop off the racetrack for a moment. That was Steve Sizemore. Quickly comes back up just in front of Chase Mastretta. As we do have a few cars running single file. By the way, there is Ken McCullough Jr. currently sitting in 29th and running out of the draft after that first incident. And unfortunately here for Ken, you can see the field is closing in on him here pretty quickly. He's going to need a caution soon, or he will be in danger of going a lap down. Corey Taylor, Nash Brambilla, Danny Barnes, and a few others here, including Mark Vondell, Chris Carter, all kind of hanging around single file at the back of this pack. And then you've got a group that's still hanging a little bit closer to the pack, but taking it easy and probably watching to see if there's going to be a wreck. And then the pack tightens up as you get to about these front 10 to 20, in which they were 3 wide for quite a while, but things now have gotten back to 2 by 2, at least for the time being. David Flanagan continues to lead the way on the bottom of the racetrack, getting pushed by Brian Hennings. And you've got the 78 of Evan Carlbahn up top, getting pushed by the 1 of Joe Herta, who, by the way, is carrying an onboard view for us here tonight. There's Joe. Did a great job in his heat and has been doing a phenomenal job so far in his feature. For Joe Herta here, who, by the way, is sitting just to the outside of Brian Hennings. And I mention Hennings because he has made up 28 positions from where he started this race at. Now, I do think both... Actually, I don't know if Hennings is in the same boat, but I know for sure Carlbahn staying out, along with Sizemore and a few others. They may have to pit a lap or two earlier than the rest of the field, just depending here. So that's something else to keep an eye on, as we are now getting to that lap 15 range, which would have been starting to get pretty close to when we would have been talking about a pit stop earlier. I think that, let's see, we went back green right around 4 or 5 laps in the books, so I think these guys could probably make 15 to 20 laps, so I think we're going to be talking actually about that first pit stop maybe closer to 20 to 25. I think earlier I said it was going to be 15 to 20. That would have been if we went green from the start, but I think it's going to be closer to 20 to 25 or so, somewhere in that window before we actually see this first round of green flag stops. I'll tell you what, with the way they're running right now, I think my confidence is actually starting to grow that we could see this green flag pit stop, which would be a really, really big game changer for this field, because I don't know if everybody's practiced it. I mean, it seems like the way money races have been going recently, we haven't seen as much green flag pit stops as we used to. As they're going to go by Ken McCullough Jr. here. Tough break for the 03. So getting ready to lap him as they work into turn 3. You see Ken stand on the high side. And if you're Ken right here, obviously nothing you can do. The field working by pretty quickly, but what he is going to probably try to do is just latch on right around to the back and obviously either hope for a caution or try to match the strategy of these leaders the best that he can. And obviously I'm sure we'll see at least one more caution before this race is all said and done. As, man, we almost saw one right there as Joshua McCullough tried to pick up his teammate. I don't know if he misjudged it or just felt like the run was going to be too big, but he jumped down at the last second. And again, that was a really, really close call right there at the end. So up front, Evan Carlbahn making his way down to the bottom of the racetrack just in front of the 31 of Flanagan, as the inside stacks up a little bit. They get it sorted out now, and they're going to allow the 1 of Joe Herta to jump down as well. So that puts the Jack Shack 1, 2, 3 on the inside of the racetrack. Meanwhile, you've got Christopher McCullough and Garrett Maines trying everything in their power to push clear on the high side. Garrett would like to jump down with Chris here, and he might get to do it. Wow. Boy, it's not often you see a double clear like that, but Garrett Maines, what a push to get both him and Christopher McCullough out to the lead. Hunter Hastings, James Wagner, 2 of the Roughneck Racing teammates, and Chris Melton make it 3 of the Roughneck Racing teammates. Now lined up on the outside, trying to make their way to the front. Stephen Miles back here. Sean Corbett, another driver who pulled up an onboard view for us here tonight after he made the feature. And there you see the big 3-monitor setup for Sean Corbett. Trying to get the job done here tonight. Had a phenomenal qualifying effort. Was able to start on the pole for heat race number 1. He is now up 9 positions from where he started this featured event at. And here we go. First round of pit stops earlier than expected. This could have implications on the fuel window, but first off, can everybody get in clean? That's the big question. Couple lockups, but it looks like they do. Oh, Mastretta got into the grass and actually ran over the commitment cone. We'll have to see if that's a penalty for the 8 car. Everybody works down to their boxes and into their stall. And it looks like everybody actually gets in relatively clean. So far, this was a pretty good round of stops here. Nagels with the advantage as he's got the closest to pit road exit pit stall. And it will be fuel and 2 tires, the call for everybody here. Joe Herta wins the race out. And here comes everybody else. Now, they got to sort this out. They need to do it pretty quickly. Meanwhile, here comes the pack roaring off of turn 4. Will we see another round of pit stops this time? It looks like not up front. Further back, yes, we will. It's going to be one of the Roughneck Racing drivers, Wagner, and then Dylan Jones going to go in as well. A couple big lockups, 1 in the grass, 2 in the grass. The 28s. I believe that's Corey Taylor. Yes, it is. We'll have to see if he gets a penalty. Wagner, I think, might have been okay unless he got a speeding penalty. And it looks like Dylan Jones decided to go in with these guys as well. As we go back here to Chase Mastretta, who, not sure what happened to Mastretta, but he is currently not showing as connected to the server. And so now we turn our attention back over to the leaders who have not pit yet. Now I'm really interested to see just how far these guys decide to go. That felt like a bit of an early stop. It may have been because you had a guy like Carl Bond, and I was trying to figure out who else had stayed out with him. I'm not sure if Flanagan did or not, but maybe they had to pit early. And yeah, that might make sense because here we go. Now we're going to see the rest of the field make their stop. This one, the biggest group so far to come in. Can they all get in clean? It looks like they do. Nobody goes in the grass. Just a few minor lockups. Garrett Maines and Christopher McCullough lead them in. And they will now all try to work into their individual boxes. Important to try not to slide right here, as obviously that can cost you a ton of time. Looks like they all get in pretty clean. Now watch the track map. You see that kind of condensed group working their way off of turn 4. That is that group that has already pit. As you see, by the way, Corey Taylor just making his way out, so he did get a penalty. Garrett Maines leads the field out. And here come the rest of them. This is going to be a very interesting blend. In fact, I think that group that pit first actually is going to get the advantage here. But I don't know if it's going to be a big enough of an advantage to actually pull away from anybody. Again, the apron is banked here at Talladega, so you got to remember that with that in mind, they can get up to speed a little bit quicker. Garrett Maines and Stephen Miles, though, get a much better pit stop than majority of the field. You can see that big group being led by Flanagan. 2x2, though, Henning's leading the high side. They're going to go by 3 wide. Not much that Garrett and Stephen can do, but as they fall to the back of this pack, you know that they will definitely be able to stick with the draft here and try to make their way back to the front. As Garrett actually pulled up to the high side right there. That was a bold move to try to sneak around the 28 of Corey Taylor. And then that second group that pit, for the most part, I think is going to be able to catch up. You got Hunter Hastings, Joshua McCullough, and Dylan Jones. They're in drafting range, and they're kind of acting as a bridge right now to pull up everybody else, including Chris Melton, Tucker McClendon, Ash Brambilla, Nathan Harper, Asher Little, Ken McCullough Jr., and Danny Barnes. And after that, you look at some of the cars that had issues on this pit stop. Chris Carter, James Wagner, Mark Von Dell, Steve Sizemore, Christopher McCullough, Corey Taylor, all with issues on this pit stop. They are all some of the drivers that are going to be hoping for a caution as we approach the halfway point here in tonight's race. Still 2x2, though, at the front. And I almost think when you break the field up like this, I wouldn't be shocked if some of these drivers now almost go into even more of a conservative mode. You figure we've only got, well, I take it back, we're actually going to have about 20-plus cars in the lead group here once everybody catches back up. But I just think that every pit stop that happens, it feels like you drop off 3 to 5 cars. which makes your job easier because it's obviously less cars that you got to battle with. So I wouldn't be shocked if these guys keep it relatively conservative and 2x2. And who knows, we could see another pit stop sometime right around lap 35 to lap 40. I think that would be the next window for a green flag pit stop, and that would definitely be the final one of the night. Wouldn't expect to see it any more after that, unless it were to be under caution. So you've got David Flanagan leading the way here at Talladega, up 15 spots from where he started this race at. Joe Hurd a second, up 2 from where he started this race at. But how about the comeback here for Mike Davenport? After being involved in that first lap incident, thought that he had major suspension damage and would maybe be in major trouble. That's not the case. He was able to recover through the chaos that unfolded in that second restart with Ken McCullough Jr. getting turned around. Was able to charge towards the middle and then ultimately the front. Now here he is, trying to keep himself up the front. Davenport looking to go to victory lane here tonight. That would be a big win for Team PGR if he could get the job done. And there's Brian Hennings in the 74. Another driver with a really impressive run going when you consider that he technically wasn't even supposed to be in here, as he didn't make it based off of finishing position. But John Ellis Jr., one of the drivers that did advance in Heat 2, was disqualified due to, I believe, from what I heard, changing lanes in the final lap. And because of that, Ryan Hennings, the man who finished one spot out of the transfer positions, was moved up and transferred in. He's making the most of it in that 4th spot. Danny Barnes maybe thinking about making it 3 wide further back. You see Garrett Maines content to ride right now, both him and Stephen Miles. Wouldn't be shocked if those two are maybe even saving a little fuel here so that they can try to take a little bit less on this final stop. And obviously by doing that, maybe try to get the advantage when it comes to merging. Go by Christopher McCullough. That'll be to put him, I believe, just 1 lap down. For Chris, we'll see if that's his first or second lap lost. As, by the way, as it stands right now, the amount of cars total that we have sitting on the lead lap is 25. And for Christopher McCullough, that will be his first lap. At least that's how it looks at the moment. So both him and Kevin McCullough Jr. a lap down. Corey Taylor, though, in the 28, currently the first car, sitting a lap down. And so as they now cross the line, to complete lap 25. That leaves us with just 26 laps to go as we cross over the halfway point here at Talladega. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll go side by side so you don't miss a thing. Stick with us. Be right back at Talladega.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
But you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
Three by 3.
Almost all trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. Finish. Who gets it at the line? Talladega.
Welcome back to Talladega Superspeedway, PGR eSports Intimidator Superspeedway Series. Just 23 laps remaining here tonight, and so far, things have been pretty tame over the course of the last 20 laps. Not anymore. Look at this, 3 wide at the front of the field. Garrett Maines wants the lead. Hunter Hastings, Christopher McCullough going with him. And I think for Christopher McCullough, he knows that he has to kind of race because Corey Taylor in the 28 is buried in with this pack as well, and he was the first car lap down, but with Chris being in the position he is now, he has that spot, so he would be the one who would get the lucky dog, but the trade-off of that is if they wreck up front, he gets an X from it, and he would obviously not get the lucky dog, and obviously run the risk of being involved in said wreck. So now with just 22 laps to go, there's still 3x3. We'll keep it side by side here, but I do want to show you what the payouts are looking like here tonight because they're pretty good, especially, again, for what's considered a 30-car feature. Top 10 payouts, $300 to first, $250 to second, $200 to third, $175 to fourth, $150 to fifth, $125 to sixth, $100 to seventh, $75 to eighth, $75 to ninth, and then $55 to that 10th position as well. So you got a good chance at getting paid here tonight, especially if we make it to another green flag pit stop and potentially make this pack even smaller. By the way, it was only a $25 entry fee here tonight. So if you're ever interested in getting in on some of the money races here at PGR, we always have the link to the Discord in the description of the video, so make sure that you do check that out. But boy, how about Mike Davenport continues to impress up front, leading quite a few laps here. As now, oh man, they almost went 4 wide, but they're going to keep it 3 wide. Carlbahn gets put in a little bit of an awkward spot, but Garrett Maines is going to bail on his help with Hunter Hastings. Instead, go down to the middle here to try to push Evan Carlbahn. As they cross the line this time, it'll now officially be just 20 laps remaining here at Talladega. Again, Davenport continues to lead. Garrett Maines, though, trying to push Evan Carlbahn out in front. Last pit stop was right around lap 20. And so that was with about 30 laps or so to go. So we're still about, I'd say, anywhere from 5 to 10 laps away from potentially seeing this next green flag pit stop. Depending on, of course, when you go in. If you try to stretch this a little bit further, but it should be the final green flag pit stop of the race regardless. Whether you go in early or late, I don't think it'll matter in that respect. Chris Carter, 22nd right now, leading a pack of James Wagner and Mark Von Dell. As it stands, you've got a total of 21 cars in the lead pack. Here's Nash Brambilla and Joshua McCullough in the 29 and the 23. Just kind of hanging around out back. They feel like there's maybe not anywhere to go at the moment. Just biding their time here until we get to the final green flag pit stop. Tucker McClendon in 18th. Asher Little 17th. We've got Steven Miles in 16th in that beautiful gold and black 24 machine. Dylan Jones 15th. Sean Corbett 14th. Chris Melton 13th. Trevor Osanoff in 12th. You got Hunter Hastings now up to 10th. Nathan Harper 9th. Some of your biggest movers towards the front. Chris Walker up 24 spots from where he started this race. Ryan Hennings up 25. Mike Davenport up 16. Flanagan's up 12. Carlbahn's up 13. And here we go. We're going to see maybe another round of stops, or is this just Davenport? This is actually going to be just Davenport, and I just realized for Davenport, I don't know if he was on a different strategy or what, but that's an early stop. I know he led a few laps, but this definitely seems a little too early here for the 55 to be coming in, but he did get the 8 of Steve Sizemore, who's not on the lead lap, but nonetheless to go with him, so he'll have hopefully a little bit of drafting help as he works his way back out. But for Sizemore, he is going to take tires, so actually those two doesn't look like are going to have the chance to get linked up. So Davenport going to be stuck by himself here. He's got to be hoping that these leaders pit really, really soon. That might be his only chance. As now you see Ken McCullough Jr. also trying to work his way up to the field on this third lane. Steven Miles looks like he's going to go with them, as now we're going to see pit stops here, and a lot of them Oh, man, this is a really big group this time. Can everybody get it in clean and hold it together? Kenny Real coming in hot. Oh, man. Got into the door, Brian Hennings, but I think that they actually all got in clean. So far, second clean pit stop of the night. With just 17 laps to go, and that almost makes me think that Davenport's pit stop may have actually not been all that early. In hindsight, initially I thought it was really early of a pit stop, but I'm thinking maybe not so much. And for this group, this does seem like a little bit of an early stop, but I got to assume that they know they can make it on fuel to pit this early, because if not, they're going to be in trouble, as I think Garrett Maines and company, who haven't pit yet, are going to be more than good to go on fuel. Now, it'll be interesting to see if they come in this time or next lap. I think it'll be one of the two, and yeah, so sure enough, they're going to stay out this lap. They'll go around at least one more time before they make their final green flag stop, as we officially see just 16 laps remaining here at Talladega Superspeedway. We got off to a relatively rocky start with that caution right out of gate, but since then, this has been about as clean of a race as you could have possibly imagined. We've had 2 green flag cycles so far, or maybe I should say 1.5. This group's all able to keep it together and get through clean. That will be 2 full cycles of green flag stops. So good news there. And the other advantage with this group going in later, by the way, is that they may have a little bit of extra fuel for an overtime if we were to, of course, need it. So as they work off of turn 4, I would suspect that Garrett Maines is going to peel down this time. And sure enough, he will, and everybody else is going to follow. Can this group get in as clean as the last one did? Harper coming in a little hot, but he looks to be okay. Christopher McCullough in the same boat. And everybody gets in smooth. Even getting down to their box, everybody's been fine so far here tonight. There's been a lot of really good awareness, I would say, because sometimes we see pit road and it is pure chaos. Seems like nobody can really get anything right, but again, that has not been the case here tonight. They have been on point. Green flag pit stop, so hats off to everybody in the field for that, and we're getting closer to the possibility of a race that could have went mostly green. And obviously, we could see if this thing goes green to the finish, although you know the aggression level now is going to really ramp up, because these guys all know what's at stake now that that final pit stop is over. It's going to be all about track position from here on out. Garrett Maines gets the best pit stop by far. He really beat a lot of these guys out. Now, we'll see if he decides to check up here or if he stays at full pace. Looks like he'll stay at speed. And then you see that group that already made a pit stop, already at full speed, probably about 20 to 30 miles an hour quicker, and just mowing their way by the field right here. They're going to go by Brambilla, and they're just going to keep going by all these different kind of solo cars as they continue to get up to speed. But I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to get all the... Oh, no, they definitely will. Look at this run from Chris McCullough. In fact, he checks up. Actually gives Garrett a little bit of a bobble right there as he tried to give him a big push. See Miles and Nathan Harper trying to take advantage of it on the outside to pull clear, but they're not going to be able to do it. Now you see Cody Nagels and company out back. They're going to have a massive run. The big question is when they get here with this run, what do they do with it? Do they stay 2x2 for now? Or does Nagels potentially try to jump out of line and see if Tucker McClendon and company go with him? Big run for Cody, but it's like he's going to stay in line for now. Gets to Hunter Hastings. That takes it easy as, whoa, Davenport, man, barely, if actually not quite clear, I should say. As he tried to slot across the nose there of Chris Walker, almost. Your second caution of the night. They keep it together. Well, we're closing in on 13 laps to go, and I'm telling you, once we get under 10, action's going to start to pick up. So before we get to that point, we're going to go ahead and take one more quick break. We'll go side by side so you don't miss a thing. Stick with us for the finish here at Talladega.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really on point.
Make you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
laps in here. We are racing
3 by 3.
almost in trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. To the finish. Who gets it in the line? Cody Nagels wins it at Talladega.
Ten laps to go at Talladega Superspeedway for the PGR eSports Intimidator Superspeedway Series. While we were on break, not much has changed up front. Christopher McCullough appears to be your leader. Remember, he is a lap down. Technically, he's not while he's leading, but again, that is not for position. He's just up here trying to get that lap back the hard way. But now, as you see, Garrett Maines drop down in front of him. That may no longer be an option. Nathan Harper, Stephen Miles trying to get connected on the outside. And the other thing I've been watching closely here is this group back here, which is single file. I guess they're kind of still trying to play catch-up, but there's not really a reason that they shouldn't be able to. They're well in the drafting range. They've got James Wagner as a bridge car as well. Now, there is some significant damage to the front nose of Mark Von Dell. I wonder if that damage is potentially holding these guys up just a little bit, or the third possibility of what I was thinking is maybe they're saving some fuel, although I don't really see exactly why they'd be doing that. As there you go. Von Dell now going to shuffle up to the high side. You wonder if that damage was just maybe holding this line back a little bit too much. And now it's time to see if Tucker McClendon is going to be able to make up some ground with this group and try to catch that lead pack. If they do, we're still going to have a pretty big group battling it out for 10 positions as we now come to what will be just 8 laps to go. They cross the line this time. Up front, Garrett Maines continues to lead. Christopher McCullough on the bottom. But the man technically leading the bottom in terms of position is Asher Little. Garrett Maines, though, he knows what that 94 is up here for, and I think he's kind of using him as a pick. It's a great idea. It'd be interesting to see if Chris bails off the racetrack, if we end up getting, to 1 or 2 laps to go without a caution to let these guys race it out, or if he stays there and tries to help Garrett all the way back. And then for Harper and Miles, I think they're pretty content to work together right now, as is Hunter Hastings. Ken McCullough Jr., by the way, also trying to get a lap back, so that is not for position. Neither is Chris Carter in the 88. It looks like that second group, by the way, was finally able to catch back up. So what was a single file train of about 10 cars trying to catch up has now kind of meshed back into a giant group, which is still 2 by 2, surprising to me. Especially considering that, again, we're only 7 laps away from the end of this race. I would assume everybody felt good about their fuel mileage, and you got to go at this point. If we see another caution, it's going to give us a restart with only a couple laps to go. So I still am kind of on the fence of, I just think that these guys out back that are staying single file really need to try to go up there and see if they can either get a big run or get this third lane going. I just feel like you're starting to really run out of time. But up front, Garrett Maines looks more than comfortable. I don't think he's worried at all about fuel. As we look out the rear view, he sees Christopher McCullough giving him pretty solid pushes as they go down the back stretch and into the corner. There's the 29 of Joshua McCullough, who currently sits 6th. Great run for him so far. And Cody Nagels actually has some front nose damage to his Chevy Camaro. A little bit interesting. Certainly wonder where exactly he got that from. Either way here for Nagels, wonder how that's going to affect the performance of his car now. Dylan Jones and Nash Miller now linking up on the outside with the 88 of Chris Carter. They're now going to see if they can try to work closer to the front of the field. 55 of Mike Davenport on the bottom behind Nagels. He's had a great run all night. And as we close in on just 5 laps to go, you can start to really feel now the intensity picking up with this second group, realizing that they have got to try to get up there and get close to the rear bumpers of that front group if they want any chance at making a move. Hennings and Oswanoff, 2 that decided to make it happen. Now Nagels going to jump up in front of Hennings here. He wants a bit of a push, and Hennings will give it to him. I was wondering there for a second if the 74 would consider trying to split him out 3 wide, but he thinks better of it. So you just saw him go by the lap car there of Steve Sizemore. He'll tag onto this pack and extend. But in terms of actual positioning, in this lead pack, as it stands right now, we've got 18 cars, again, fighting for 10 payouts. And I just wonder if, for some of the Jack Shack guys that had to pit early both times, if they just don't feel comfortable on fuel, so they're just sitting back there kind of forced to save a little bit right now. For their sake, they're going to either need a caution or hope that they're able to make that fuel number here relatively soon. Because, again, you've got to get going to the front now, as there was a big wiggle out of the 7 and 8th and Harper. Brambilla saw the checkup. He quickly jumps to the high side. I think the 30th Wagner really wanted to go there as well, but he just couldn't quite do it. So Wagner will stay disciplined and tucked to the middle for now. Photoback Joe Herta. Oh, man, heartbreak. One of the Jack Shack drivers, he realizes that he just isn't quite going to have enough fuel to make it, so he decides to take it in. So that will end his chances. Steve Sizemore does so as well. As we now see just 4 laps to go. Wagner now going to look to that third line, but he doesn't have any help with him right now. You got to have some help up there, especially if you want that lane to go forward in a hurry. Remember what track temp was at the start of the race? Just over 120 degrees. It is now cooled to under 120 degrees. It may not mean much, but if that third lane is going to lose an edge, this is a bad time for it to happen. We'll have to wait and see. Also, don't forget, leader has got to take the white flag for this race to be official. So we still have 2 full laps that we have to run caution-free before this thing will officially go into the books. Garrett Maines, though, still leading up front, up 4 spots from where he started this race at. Nathan Harper, second. Stephen Miles, Christopher McCullough, row 2. Asher Little and Hunter Hastings, 2 drivers looking for their first PGR win in row 3. Joshua McCullough still up here as well. And I'll tell you what, for Nagels, I think he wants to make a move. I just don't think that that car is aerodynamically sound on the front end. As look at this push from Harper. Gets Garrett Maines just about clear. They can't quite do it as they roar off into turn number 3. Christopher McCullough. Well, I said that they couldn't quite do it, but Christopher McCullough being a lapper means that that's okay. I think if you're Garrett here, you're hoping more than anything that if Chris does stay up here, he pulls down. Kind of blocks Asher Little for that last lap as, ooh, trouble. Saw one go down to the apron here. That's Nagels with a big slide. Cody bailing out. Must not have felt like he could make it on fuel. As, man, we had a couple. Whoa, Asher Little, trouble. Can they save it? Yes, Asher Little got way out of line. He's wiggling around, but it looks like he is indeed able to save it. That could have been big. And now Nash Permillo is going to jump up to the top to try to push the 01, who just completely clears himself off the nose of Hastings. Man, not clear. I don't think Hunter's going to appreciate that one too much. Nonetheless, everybody saves it. Now Stephen Miles is going to jump up to the third right in front of Nash Brambilla. And we are getting ready to be less than half a mile away from making this race official. As the field works off of 4 and into the tri-oval, Garrett Maines with a big block. Now he'll go back to the middle. White flag in the air. Race is official. 1 lap to go at Talladega. Garrett throws another big block to the bottom. That's going to wreck them all out back. The whole field just about is going to get collected as they snake down to the bottom. The front 3 survived, and another handful out back did as well. Joshua McCullough pushing Garrett Maines, but he's going to have a big chance at making a move if he sets himself upright. Brambilla's going to jump to the high side. Where will Joshua McCullough go? McCullough wants to go high. He's thinking about it, but he's going to stay to the bottom for now. Brambilla and Jones, they have a big push as they race off into 3. Now the lines are going to start to organize. Harper gets behind McCullough. Flanagan's going to get behind Jones, and it's an all-out push back to the finish. Maines is going to throw the block high. Will Brambilla look high? Yes, he does. Garrett tried to block lower. Josh is going to give him another push through the tri-oval. The 1 wiggles, but he's going to hang on. Garrett Maines is going to come home a winner at Talladega. It wasn't easy. He had to block quite a bit for it. But Garrett Maines takes home the $300 and the win here tonight. The high banks of Talladega Superspeedway. What a win for the former Coke Series driver. Getting the job done here tonight. Now, I am curious to go back and look at that. The incident there that happened is it looked a little bit like it may have resulted from a stack up from a block. And I'm just mentioning it. I don't believe the admins would have an issue with it if the stack up and the wreck itself didn't happen until a couple rows back. But just, again, something to make sure you stick around for here, because we are going to go and take a look at it. But how about that? These guys had one caution this whole race. After a start where you thought, man, this thing could be a caution fest all the way through. These guys end up going almost flag to flag. Well over 45 laps of green flag racing. Garrett Main's burning it down here up front. Or at least trying to. He's going to park that thing on the line here, but before we actually look at your finishing results here, I do want to go back and actually look at the white flag here and the block that was thrown and see what happens here and if the admins are going to make any sort of ruling on this. All right, so here you go. Garrett at this point, he's going to go from a couple lanes. First, he blocks the top. This is okay. No issues here. So he gives him a pretty big shot. Checks that line up a little bit. No harm, no foul. But then you see Josh is getting a big run right here, and that block really wasn't clear. You can see as a result, it drags Josh down, and it causes this big stack up out back. And man, that's a tough one. I think just from experience, I think I've decided I'm not giving any opinions anymore in broadcasting. But what I will say is from previous admin rule, I think they're going to let this stand for Garrett. I think the block is a bit late. It's close, but I do think the block's a little bit late. And I think as part of that the block does push Josh's nose down onto the apron here. And obviously, this is where it gets tough, you know, for a couple reasons. And the reason I say that is because, you know, in my book, when Garrett makes that block, it causes the checkup, and Ken has two options: either drive through and wreck Joshua McCullough or check up and get wrecked from behind. So it was kind of I hate to say it, but it was kind of a death sentence for Josh or Kenny as soon as that block, being just a little bit late, was thrown. But it'll be interesting to see what the ruling is, because I know a lot of times race control may not look at it that way. They may say, well, you know, it was a checkup a couple rows back and so called it, but we'll wait and see. We'll try to get a ruling from race control before we start interviews so we can let everybody know, but then obviously see it wrecks them all back. And then that was the only, I would say, block that was maybe a little bit on the fence for Garrett. Any of the other blocks that he had to make here the rest of the way through, I thought were phenomenal blocks, and I think definitely got him to the win. And you'll see here, I think he's going to jump up off of 4. He felt like he had to block Nash. And it's borderline, but that's a good block. And you see Nash gives him a bump. Garrett goes back down. Clean there. Now he's in control. Hangs on to the push from Josh and leads him right back to the line. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and go back live and we'll pull up your results. We are going to go check with race control just to be sure. After we do that, again, that's Heat 2 results, so give me just a moment. After we do that, we are going to go grab your top 3 for interviews. So we'll be back with your official winner and then your top 3 for interviews. Just a moment. Stick with us at Talladega. All right, welcome back to Talladega Superspeedway. Apologies for the little bit of a delay. I hopped in the admin chat, and it sounds like that these boys are reviewing it, and it sounds like there's a little bit of a couple decisions that they're trying to hammer out right now. So I'm not going to say anything decision-wise at the moment because, again, they're still talking about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to interview third and second place first, and then we'll go to your race winner, which I guess that depends too. One thing we know for sure, Nash Brambilla and Nathan Harper are definitely finishing on the podium. Whether or not Jones gets moved up to the podium if Garrett gets EOL'd is what's going to depend. So we'll go ahead and start first right now with what is your current second place finisher, and that is none other than the 23 of Nash Brambilla. Nash, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. I got you.
Well, man, I want to start with you first here tonight. You're being scored as second for the moment, but obviously still a lot of conversation going on with race control on if the leader will be EOL'd or not. First question, so I got for you is what was going through your head and what did you see there with not only the block up front, but all the chaos that unfolded on that last lap?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see much of the wreck. I was on the third lane just chugging along, and then they kind of wrecked first and second lane. But yeah, Dylan Jones was helping me there, and we had a huge run and took him to the second lane, and I was a little nervous Garrett was going to block me there in the backstretch, but he didn't. And then, yeah, we just kind of clean raced it to the finish, and no one wrecked, and it was a great finish.
Yeah, it certainly was a great finish there coming down to the line. And, you know, man, you had a couple of close calls earlier, in fact, involved in an incident in the heat. You know, this was a different format in the sense that we don't run this often. Did it feel a little bit more like a grind to get not only to the feature, but get yourself in position to the end of the race to have a chance at the podium?
Yeah, it's definitely a grind. It feels like a big event. I'm kind of in the minority, but I love the heats. I mean, especially when people get eliminated. I mean, you got to race smart in the heats and then get there to the feature, and there's less cars, better racing in the feature. So I'm personally all for the heats. I know I'm kind of in the minority, but it just promotes, cleaner racing. And but yeah, the heat was interesting. I mean, got loose and got kind of spun there by somebody and stayed in it, got second, and then that first checkup on the restart really killed me and Garrett, but we ended up getting back there depending on what they drew on Garrett. But yeah, personally, I love the heat. It makes it feel like a good event, and it kind of helps the underdog too a little bit, have a good finish in these races.
Absolutely. Well, a great finish for you here tonight, Nash. Again, second right now, but wouldn't be too surprised just in case if they move you up to the leader. But hey, nonetheless, before we let you head out, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I got to thank my teammates, Team PGR. Brock was kind of helping me spot there through that last wreck because he unfortunately got eliminated on the heats. Got to thank my girlfriend, Dina. She made some bomb-ass fried rice in between the heats and the race, so I think that might be the move going forward. I think it's good luck fried rice. And then obviously thank you guys. You're one of the best broadcasters out there, Austin. I appreciate you, and I'm watching you back. But yeah, good race.
Absolutely, Nash. We appreciate you talking to us. Well, hey, sorry for wrecking you on Monday, but glad that you could get a good finish here tonight.
Yeah, I forgive you, man.
All right, and now that's going to bring us up to what we know is guaranteed to at least be your third place finisher, and that is none other than Nathan Harper. Nathan, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, you finished third, at least for now. Or, well, excuse me, fourth. I keep saying third. In fact, I saw you in the waiting room, so I thought you finished third. But we'll go ahead and interview you nonetheless since we pulled you in. You finished fourth for now, potentially getting moved up to third, depending on, obviously, what the admins rule. So we'll just keep it brief for you here. Kind of tell us about the race there towards the end. What was going on in your head through that last lap?
Well, I mean, try and stay up front, of course. I was with Garrett there, and I was telling him what my temps were. And coming to the white, he threw the block on the third lane, and he played that to perfection. And then he double cleared down to the bottom. And I mean, to me, I think that's a racing deal. But I'm not the one here to make the call. But then after that happened, I was like, okay, well, it looks like a podium lock for me here, and lost my help. Tried to throw a block on Brambilla there when they had a run, but I didn't get to him in time, so I fell back in line and just stay content. But hey, I ain't mad.
Yeah, a good finish nonetheless for you. Again, fourth for now, but there's a chance you could get moved up into the podium. So just in case, before we let you head out tonight, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, shout out Garrett there. If he gets robbed of his 10th win, I'm gonna be pretty upset because no one's gotten the 10 yet in PGR. But yeah, shout out to him. We did a good job there at the end. Shout out to John Ellis. Unfortunately, he got penalized in the heat and didn't make it, but he was in the call with us tonight. And shout out to you for putting this on for us, and shout out to Scary for being race control and everyone who showed up tonight.
Nathan, thank you for talking to us. Congrats on the 4th place finish, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and with that, as it stands right now, by the way, 2nd place finisher Joshua McCullough did inform me that he's having some mic issues. Let's now bring it to what is currently being scored as your race winner. That is none other than Garrett Maines. Garrett, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy? Well, hey, man, I know Race Control's still reviewing everything, but we want to get you up here nonetheless because as of right now, obviously scoring has you as the race winner. So first off, I know everybody in the chat here is very eager. Tell us a little bit about the last move there. I should say the first move coming to the last lap there and your take on it.
I mean, if you're referring to the first move that really, made the race, moving up there to the 3rd lane and getting the boost, that was kind of what had to happen to not get trained there. I knew Nathan was hot and wasn't going to be able to push anymore. And so, with that run, I was clear of McCullough, and I didn't want to jerk it down in front of him right away, just with the way the momentum had shifted. But, right as I had started to move down, Kenny got to the back of Josh and started boosting him forward. And I was clear. This is where I think it's a very clear-cut appeal, and it should be, it should be reviewed. I am literally clear for the entirety of the move, except Josh moves below the yellow line. His left side tires are not even on the paint. They are on the apron. And then he maybe gets an inch or two past my quarter panel on his way back up, which of course, if you're not on the racing surface, I can't block that. And, I had completed the move. I was in his lane by the, by the time he was to my inside. It's just, he was outside of his lane. So, I'm not really sure why that was called that way. I mean, if we're going to go off the rule book, you're not allowed to go below the yellow line to advance your position. And I'm pretty sure getting this inside of somebody, would be outside of those rules and should at least negate my fault in the incident. But I don't know. I'm not really sure what they're looking at right now, but I've watched this replay back a few times. I complete the move before before anybody makes contact with me. So,
and it sounds
I'm kind of shocked.
I was going to say, it sounds like, just from what I'm hearing from you, and I actually just saw the message from Mike that, yeah, it looks like for now, admins did officially obviously give you the EOL on. I know that you're obviously going to appeal it. A tough break there. And I don't want to cut you short here, Garrett. So by all means, if you want to keep talking about it, please do. But I did also want to ask you a little bit about what you thought about the heat format tonight and kind of how tough it is to stay focused when you've got that much more laps to run. And did you think it maybe made the racing a little bit cleaner?
Yeah, I thought we had a great race, minus whatever shenanigans were going on at the beginning that rendered me to the rear of the field. Yeah, overall, it was a good race. It was nice to get some pit stops in. We had, plenty of those. We had, lots of clean racing up front, and just, it's kind of a shame that it came down to the way it did. But, you really can't complain, but so much. We had green flag racing for, the rare occasion that, you get to do that in super speedway racing. Tonight was a really good example of how to do it. Hopefully we'll get it appealed. It'd be nice to get, Wigan Water Technologies officially a win here in PGR, but I guess we'll have to wait and see how they review it. I'm kind of shocked I'm in this situation right now.
Well, Garrett, win or not, you had a great run here tonight. So before we do let you head out, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give another shout out to Wigan Water Technologies for all their support this season. Also, a big thank you to Scott at MCU Body, and also a thank you to Linux for their support.
Garrett, thank you for talking to us. Well, we'll see what happens, but again, we appreciate you talking to us.
Appreciate it.
All right, so as of right now, and I know everybody's already figured it out, but just to recap, official scoring at the moment. I say at the moment, official scoring for the race at this time. Garrett Maines has received an EOL for blocking, coming to the white flag. That moves second place finisher Joshua McCullough up to the lead. He is your race winner, and that is a first ever PGR win for Joshua McCullough, the driver out of Savannah, with a huge upset victory here tonight. First of hopefully many for the driver from McCullough Motorsports. And unfortunately for Josh, he did tell us through message that he's having issues with his Discord, so we're not going to get to interview him in his first win, but I know he's pretty pumped up right now. Again, that is at the moment. Garrett will have the option to appeal, so we'll try to keep you updated maybe next week or something on what the decision for that was. But as for tonight, Joshua McCullough, first-time PGR winner in the heat format. And boy, what an interesting format it was. 24 drivers, 2 heats, and it ended up getting narrowed down to a total of 30 drivers for the feature. And boy, we saw a lot of green flag racing besides the questionable moves that happened there maybe at the end, and obviously the admin reviewed moves at the end. The race itself was great. I'm hoping we see more of this next week. But overall, as always, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed. That's it for me, Austin Green, here on PGR Esports. And until next time, have a good night.